The great palace of Xylar stood tall under the twin suns. Its walls were made of shining crystal, glowing with power. Thousands of guards stood outside, and banners of the royal family moved with the wind. To the galaxy, it looked like the strongest throne of all. But inside the palace, the ruler of this mighty world was broken. The alien queen sat on her throne of stone and silver. She wore her crown, heavy with jewels, and her robes flowed like rivers of light. Her face was hard, proud, and full of command. Soldiers bowed to her, ministers feared her, and enemies trembled when they heard her name. But behind those sharp eyes was a deep pain that never left her. Many years ago, the queen had a daughter. The girl was small, full of laughter, and her smile could melt even the coldest of hearts. The queen had loved her more than life itself. She dreamed her daughter would grow strong, rule one day, and bring peace to their people. But then the war came. A war with humans. The war had been cruel, filled with fire and blood. Planets burned, fleets were destroyed, and both sides lost too much. In the middle of this chaos, the queen's daughter was taken. Some said she was killed in an attack. Others said she vanished in the smoke of battle. No one ever brought back her body. But all reports told the same truth. The princess was gone. The day she heard the news, the queen's scream echoed through the palace halls. She locked herself in her chamber for 7 days, refusing food, refusing sleep, refusing even to see her generals. The universe thought the queen had no weakness, but in truth she had only one, and it had been torn away. Since then she ruled with fire. Her armies grew stronger, her laws grew harder. People called her the Iron Queen. To the galaxy she looked unstoppable. But when the nights grew quiet, and no one was watching, she sat alone in her chamber. She held a small silver bracelet, the one her daughter once wore, and tears rolled down her face. She whispered to herself in the darkness, "If only I could see you again," just once, but no answer ever came. Only silence. Years passed and her grief became part of her. She learned to hide it. When her council spoke of trade and war, she nodded with cold wisdom. When ambassadors visited, she smiled with the grace of a ruler. But in her heart there was a hole that no crown, no army, no victory could ever fill. Her people thought she was strong because she never spoke of her loss. But every night the memory of her daughter's eyes came back to her, haunting her like a ghost. One night, as the queen sat alone in the dark, she felt a strange stirring in her mind. A dream came, clearer than any dream she had before. She saw her daughter alive, standing in a place of shadows. The girl reached out her hand and whispered, "Mother." The queen gasped and woke from her sleep. For the first time in years, her heart beat fast with something strange. Hope. Could it be true? Could her daughter still be alive? No, it was impossible. The reports had been clear, and yet, why did her dream feel so real? She rose from her bed and walked to the throne room, her robes trailing behind her. The palace was silent, guards bowing as she passed. She climbed the cold steps of her throne and sat down, her hands shaking. For the first time in a long time, she felt fear, not of enemies, but of hope itself. In another part of the galaxy, far away from her palace, a lone human warrior walked across a broken land. His armor was old, his scars deep, but his eyes were filled with quiet strength. In his arms he carried a small figure wrapped in cloth. The figure was weak, breathing softly but alive. The warrior did not yet know who the child was. He only knew one thing: this child was important. Important enough to risk everything. Important enough to protect even if the galaxy burned. And somewhere deep in her palace, the queen whispered into the silence, "If you are still out there, I will find you." The galaxy slept, not knowing that a story of love, loss, and destiny was about to begin. The queen's greatest pain was about to return to her life, not as memory, but as living truth. And when it did, nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. The human warrior was a man who carried the weight of many battles. His name was spoken with respect among soldiers, but behind his strong face was a soul full of scars. He had seen wars that destroyed cities, burned planets, and turned friends into ashes. He had fought under banners, followed commanders, and survived when too many had died. People called him a hero, but in his own heart he carried only guilt. Years ago, during the Great War between humans and the alien empire, he had made a mistake. In the middle of chaos, he failed to protect someone dear to him. A comrade, a brother in arms, a man who trusted him. The warrior survived, but the guilt followed him like a shadow. Every night he saw the same vision: flames, screams, and the face of the one he could not save. Since then, he had wandered across worlds, not as a hero, but as a man searching for meaning. One day, on a forgotten planet far from the reach of empires, the warrior came upon a ruined settlement. The air smelled of smoke and iron, the ground covered with broken metal and shattered walls. He thought it was another battlefield left behind by the endless war. But then he heard a sound. It was soft, weak, almost like the cry of a bird. At first he thought it was the wind, but then it came again, sharper, closer. He followed the sound, stepping over rubble and ash until he found a small chamber half buried under stone. Inside there was a figure, a child wrapped in torn cloth, her skin pale, her breathing faint. The warrior froze. A child here in the middle of destruction? He bent down and lifted her gently into his arms. She was light, too light, as if she had not eaten for days. Her face was covered in dust, but when he brushed it away, he saw something strange. Her eyes, though weak, shone with a light he had never seen before. Not human, alien, royal. For a long moment he stood in silence. He could have left her there. She was not his responsibility. She was not his kind. But something inside him stirred. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was duty. Or maybe it was the small hand that reached out and held his finger with desperate strength. The warrior made a choice. He wrapped her tighter in his cloak, held her close, and whispered, "You are safe now." From that moment he began a journey that would change the fate of empires. He carried the child across deserts and mountains, searching for food, water, and shelter. He built fires to keep her warm, fought off beasts that prowled in the night, and guarded her while she slept. Each day she grew a little stronger, and each day he felt his own heart begin to heal. At first she did not speak. She only looked at him with wide, questioning eyes. But slowly words returned to her. Small words, simple words. She asked for water. She asked for food. And one night, as they sat by the fire, she asked the question that struck his heart. "Why are you helping me?" The warrior stared into the flames for a long time before answering. His voice was rough, heavy with memory. "Because once, I failed to help someone else. I will not fail again." The girl did not understand his pain, but she felt the truth in his voice. She nodded and leaned against him, trusting him in a way no one had trusted him for years. Days turned into weeks. The warrior noticed something more. The child was not ordinary. She remembered flashes of places, golden halls, voices calling her name, a mother's arms holding her close. Sometimes she would wake from dreams, crying out for someone she had lost. The warrior did not know who she was, but he knew one thing. She was important. Too important? Others began to notice too. In the shadows, bounty hunters and mercenaries whispered of a child lost during the war. Rumors spread of a hidden treasure, a secret that could change the balance of power. And soon, dangerous eyes turned toward the warrior and the girl he carried. The first attack came without warning. A group of armed raiders cornered them in a canyon, demanding the child. The warrior drew his blade and stood firm. The fight was brutal, but he fought with the strength of 10 men. He protected her with every strike, every block, every drop of blood. When the dust settled, the raiders lay defeated, and the child clung to him with fear in her eyes. That night, as they rested under the stars, the warrior looked at her and whispered, "Who are you, little one? Why does the galaxy hunt you?" She only shook her head, confused and frightened. But deep in her heart, memories began to rise. Memories of a crown, a palace, and a mother's voice calling her by name. Far away in the palace of Xylar, the alien queen awoke from another dream. This time she saw her daughter's face more clearly. She saw her being carried in the arms of a human warrior, and her heart, filled with both rage and desperate hope, began to burn again. The paths of mother, daughter, and warrior were moving closer, and when they finally met, the galaxy would tremble. The alien queen could not sleep. Night after night, strange dreams came to her. In every dream, she saw her daughter's face, alive, reaching for her. Sometimes the child stood in a field of stars. Sometimes she was trapped in darkness, and sometimes she was carried in the arms of a man, a human man. At first, the queen told herself it was only grief. Dreams were cruel, they played with the heart. But these dreams were too sharp, too real. She could almost hear her daughter's voice whispering her name. Every morning, she awoke trembling, her crown heavy on her head, her heart beating faster than it had in years. The queen sat on her throne, surrounded by her council. Generals spoke of trade routes and border patrols, but she was not listening. Her thoughts were far away. At last she raised her hand and the hall went silent. "My daughter is not dead," she said softly. The council froze, eyes wide with shock. The ministers shifted uneasily, but no one dared to speak. The Queen's voice grew stronger. "I have seen her. She is alive, and I will find her." That very day she summoned her spies. Silent figures cloaked in shadows knelt before her. "Search every planet, every world," she commanded. "Bring me news of a child, my child. And if a human carries her, bring me his head." Her order spread like fire. Across the empire, bounty hunters sharpened their blades, mercenaries prepared their ships, and soldiers whispered of the impossible. The lost princess might still live. Some were loyal to the Queen and wanted to return the child. Others saw only profit in capturing a royal heir. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, dangerous eyes turned toward the human warrior who now carried a burden greater than he knew. Meanwhile, the warrior and the girl traveled across broken lands. He taught her how to walk in silence, how to hide from hunters, how to light a fire that would not give away their position. She was learning quickly, faster than most children. Her eyes burned with hidden strength, though she still did not remember who she truly was. Sometimes, when the wind blew, she would pause and whisper, "I know this place. I think I've been here before." Other times she would wake from dreams calling out for her mother. The warrior comforted her, but inside he felt unease. Whoever this child was, she was no ordinary girl. Their journey was not easy. Raiders attacked them in the ruins of an old city. Pirates hunted them when they tried to board a ship. The warrior fought fiercely, never letting the girl out of his sight. Each battle reminded him of the war he had once fought, but this time the stakes were different. This time he was not fighting for victory or glory. He was fighting for her. One night, as they sat by a dying fire, the girl looked at him and asked again, "Who am I?" The warrior hesitated. He did not know the full truth. But he knew one thing: powerful people wanted her. "You are someone the galaxy will never forget," he said. "That is why I must keep you safe." Far away, the Queen was growing restless. Her spies brought her whispers, rumors of a human seen carrying a child with royal eyes. The Queen clenched her fists. Rage burned in her heart. If her daughter was alive, why had she been with a human? Did they steal her? Did they use her? The thought twisted her soul. The Queen stepped into her private chamber, standing before a great star map. She touched the glowing lines with her hand, tracing the reports her spies had gathered. Each clue, each whisper led her closer to the truth. And though her heart ached with hope, her anger sharpened her resolve. "If she is alive," the Queen whispered to herself, "then I will not rest until she is in my arms again, and the human who holds her now will pay with his life." That night the Queen walked through the silent halls of her palace. Her steps echoed against the crystal walls. Servants bowed low, afraid to meet her eyes. She was a ruler, yes, but she was also a mother, and a mother's hunt is fiercer than any army. In the distance, under alien stars, the warrior carried the girl on his back. She was asleep, her head resting on his shoulder while he moved carefully through the darkness. His every sense was alert, for he knew enemies were coming. He had chosen to protect her, but he also knew one truth. The more she remembered who she was, the more dangerous their journey would become. And above them all, destiny moved silently. A queen searching for her child, a warrior protecting a secret he did not fully understand, and a girl caught between two worlds, her past slowly waking inside her. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment when mother, daughter, and warrior would finally collide. The hunt had begun. Across the galaxy, rumors spread like fire. A human warrior was carrying a child. Some whispered she was just a lost orphan. Others said she was something greater, someone royal. For many, it did not matter. A reward was promised, and hunters moved like wolves smelling blood. The human warrior knew this. Every step he took, every campfire he lit, he felt eyes watching him. The child he carried was no longer safe in shadows. Too many wanted her. Too many would kill her or use her. One evening, as the suns dipped low on a barren world, he and the girl rested near an old riverbed. The water was dry, cracked from heat, and the rocks gave them little cover. The girl sat close to him, drawing lines in the dust with her finger. "They are coming again," she whispered. The warrior looked at her sharply. "How do you know?" Her eyes glowed faintly in the twilight. "I feel them. Before he could answer, the sound came, engines screaming, ships landing, boots pounding the ground. From the cliffs above, figures appeared, bounty hunters armed with rifles, blades, and nets. Their leader shouted, "Give us the child, human, and we may let you live." The warrior stood, blade in hand, his eyes cold. "You'll have to go through me." The hunters attacked like a storm. Blades clashed. Rifles fired. The ground shook with the weight of battle. The warrior moved like a shadow, striking fast, defending the child with every breath. He fought with skill born of years in war, but the hunters were many. A knife cut across his arm, blood flowing. A blast seared his shoulder, but still he stood. The girl cried out, reaching for him. For the first time, something inside her burst awake. A wave of energy pulsed from her small hands, throwing two hunters back into the rocks. The warrior turned in shock. Her power, it was not human. It was royal. The hunters froze, staring at her with wide eyes. "The stories are true," one whispered. "She's the queen's blood." Now they wanted her even more. They charged again, desperate to capture her. The warrior fought harder, his body bleeding but his spirit burning. He cut them down one by one until the canyon was silent. The last hunter fled into the night, leaving only dust and echoes. The girl trembled, staring at her hands. "What am I?" she whispered. The warrior knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. His voice was low, steady. "You are someone the galaxy fears, and someone the galaxy needs, but to me, you are a child I swore to protect." She looked at him, tears in her eyes, and nodded. From that night on, she no longer doubted him. He was her shield, but the chase did not end. Across planets and stars, more enemies came. Pirates cornered them in space stations. Assassins slipped from shadows in the night. Mercenaries chased them across deserts, jungles, and frozen fields. Each time the warrior fought. Each time he bled, and each time the girl grew stronger, her powers flickering, her memories returning. She began to dream not only of her mother's face, but of golden halls, thrones, and soldiers who bowed before her. She remembered the sound of her mother's voice calling her name, though the name itself still slipped away. The warrior saw it all and his heart grew heavy. He now understood the danger. She was not only a child, she was the heir of an empire. And far away, the alien queen's spies confirmed the truth. A report reached her throne. "Your daughter lives. She travels with a human warrior." The queen's heart shook. Tears filled her eyes for the first time in years, but her voice was sharp with rage. "He has stolen her from me. Bring them both to me, alive or dead." The order spread. Armies prepared. The chase grew fiercer. One night, the warrior and the girl hid in the ruins of an old temple. She looked at him with fear. "If they find us, will you leave me?" He shook his head. His eyes were firm, his voice unshaken. "No, I once failed someone I loved. I will not fail you." The girl pressed her forehead to his chest, her small voice breaking. "Then promise me. Promise you won't let them take me." The warrior held her close, whispering, "I promise." But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The galaxy was closing in. The queen's hunt was relentless, and soon, no promise would be enough to stop the storm that was coming. The journey grew heavier with every passing day. The warrior and the girl crossed worlds that smelled of dust, smoke, and broken stone. The hunters were endless, always close, always waiting. Yet the greatest danger was not the blades or the guns. It was the truth hiding inside the child. The girl had begun to change. Her eyes, once wide with innocence, now glowed faintly in the dark. Her voice carried an echo when she spoke. She dreamed every night, and each dream brought her closer to remembering who she was. At first, the dreams were broken pieces. Golden walls, the sound of a lullaby, a hand brushing her hair. But now the pieces were joining together. One night, while the warrior built a fire in the ruins of a forgotten temple, the girl sat still, her eyes unfocused. She whispered a name to herself again and again. When the warrior leaned closer, he froze. It was the name of the alien queen. He set down the firewood slowly. "What did you say?" The girl looked at him, her face pale. "She is my mother. I remember now, I am her daughter." The warrior felt the ground shift under him. For weeks he had guessed she was important, but this truth was heavier than he imagined. She was not only a child, she was the lost princess of the most feared empire in the galaxy. The queen's daughter, the very one who was said to have died in the war. The warrior closed his eyes, breathing hard. He had fought against the queen's armies once. He had seen what her power could do. And now fate had placed her child in his arms. The girl's hands trembled as she spoke again. I saw it. I remember the fire, the soldiers, the humans who attacked. They took me from my home. My father died. My mother's cry. I can still hear it. Tears filled her eyes. It was humans. Your people. The words cut deep into the warrior's heart. He had fought in that war. He had seen humans burn cities just as aliens had burned theirs. He had tried to bury the memory of it all, but now it returned like a knife. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but no words came. The girl pulled away from him, her small fists clenched. Why did you save me? Was it to use me? To deliver me back to your people? The warrior's voice broke with pain. No, I swore to protect you. I don't care who you are or where you came from. You are a child, and you are my responsibility. She looked at him for a long time, her tears falling silently. Then she whispered, I don't know if I should hate you or trust you. That night the warrior could not sleep. He sat with his blade across his knees, staring at the fire. The truth had broken the fragile bond between them. Yet deep in his chest he knew one thing. He would still protect her even if she hated him. Far away, the alien queen stood on her balcony, looking out across the shining towers of her capital. The latest report had arrived. It confirmed everything. Her daughter lived. Her daughter traveled with a human warrior. The queen's heart twisted in ways even she could not understand. For years she had dreamed of holding her child again, but now anger poisoned that dream. Why is she with him? She whispered into the night. Why does a human carry what belongs to me? Her generals knelt before her, awaiting orders. She raised her hand, her voice sharp as a blade. Prepare the fleets. If my daughter is alive, I will bring her home, and if that human stands in my way, I will crush him. The queen turned and walked back into her hall. Her footsteps were steady, but her heart trembled. She longed to see her child again, to hold her, yet her fury at the human burned even brighter. In her mind, he was no savior. He was a thief. Back in the ruins, the girl lay awake. Her dreams had returned, stronger now, clearer. She saw her mother's face, proud and fierce, crowned in light. She heard her voice calling her name with love and with command. The girl pressed her hand against her chest, whispering, Mother, I'm coming. The warrior watched her from the shadows. He could feel the distance growing between them. Soon she would no longer see him as protector, but as enemy. Yet still he whispered to himself, I will not let anyone harm you. Not even your mother. The galaxy was moving toward a storm. A queen ready for war. A warrior bound by promise. A daughter torn between love and hate. And when they finally met, the truth would not heal them. It would tear the galaxy apart. The palace of Xylar had never been so silent. Its crystal walls glowed with cold light as the alien queen waited on her throne. Her crown glittered. Her robe flowed like fire, but her eyes were fixed on the great doors ahead. For years she had dreamed of this moment. For years she had imagined her daughter returning. Yet she could not stop her hands from trembling. At last the doors opened. Soldiers entered first, their armor shining, their weapons ready. Behind them came the human warrior walking slowly, his steps heavy with exhaustion. His body was scarred, his armor broken, but his head was high. At his side walked the girl, the lost princess. The queen's breath caught. She rose from her throne, her heart racing. There she was, her daughter, alive, grown, but still carrying the same eyes the queen remembered, eyes that once looked at her with love. The girl stopped in the center of the hall. For a moment, mother and daughter stared at each other across the distance of years. Tears filled the queen's eyes. Her lips trembled and she whispered, My child. The girl felt her knees weaken. The dreams, the memories, the voice she had heard in her sleep. It was all real. She wanted to run into her mother's arms, but she froze. Because beside her stood the warrior, and she could feel the queen's anger burning toward him like fire. The queen's tears turned to fury. She pointed at the human, her voice thundering through the hall. You dare bring her here? You, a human, the very kind that stole her from me. Do you think I will thank you? Do you think I will forgive you? The warrior stood firm. Those soldiers surrounded him. I brought her back because it was the right thing to do, he said. His voice was steady, though blood still stained his cloak. I protected her when no one else did. Not for reward, not for power, only because she deserved to live. The queen's hand clenched the arm of her throne. Her rage and her longing fought inside her like storms. Lies, she shouted. You used her. You kept her from me. You poisoned her against her own people. The girl stepped forward, her small voice breaking. No, Mother. He saved me. Again and again. Without him, I would be dead. The queen's eyes softened at her daughter's words, but her pride would not let go. She turned to the guards. Seize him. At once, soldiers moved. Blades rang as they closed in. The warrior drew his weapon, ready to fight to his last breath. He knew he could not win against an army, but he would not let himself be taken without a struggle. His promise still burned in his heart. The girl cried out, running between them. She spread her arms wide, standing in front of the warrior. Stop, you cannot hurt him. If you do, you will lose me forever. The hall froze. The queen's soldiers halted, unsure. The queen herself gasped. She had dreamed of this reunion for years, but now her daughter was protecting a human, against her own mother. The queen's chest ached with a pain sharper than any blade. She looked at her child's face, at the fire in her eyes, and for the first time she saw not just a lost daughter, but a young woman who had chosen her own path. Why do you defend him? The queen whispered. The girl's voice shook, but it was strong. Because he gave me back my life. Because he cared for me when I had no one. Because he is not my enemy. The queen stood silent, her heart tearing in two. Part of her wanted to rush forward, to hold her daughter at last. Another part wanted to destroy the human who reminded her of every wound the war had carved into her soul. The warrior lowered his blade slowly, his eyes on the queen. If you must kill me, then do it. But know this, I never betrayed her. I only kept my promise. That is more than many kings and queens can say. His words echoed in the hall. For a long moment, the queen said nothing. Then she raised her hand, her voice breaking the silence. Take him, she commanded. The soldiers moved again, their blades flashing. The girl screamed, tears running down her face. Mother, no! The warrior gripped his weapon, ready for the final fight. His eyes locked on the queen's, full of defiance. And in that moment, as mother, daughter, and warrior stood on the edge of destiny, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The throne hall was filled with silence so heavy it could crush a soul. The alien queen stood tall, her crown gleaming, her hand raised in command. Around her, soldiers waited, their blades ready to strike. Before them, the human warrior gripped his weapon, bloodied but unbroken, and the young princess clung to him, her tears shining in the crystal light. The queen's heart raged with fire. For years she had dreamed of this day. Her daughter alive, returned at last. But to see her standing beside a human, defending him against her own mother, was a wound deeper than any she had ever suffered. Step aside. Child, the queen said, her voice trembling with both fury and longing. He is your enemy. He is the reason you were stolen from me. He does not deserve to breathe. The girl's small body shook, but her voice rang clear. No, mother. He is not my enemy. Without him, I would not be here. He saved me when the galaxy left me to die. The queen's eyes burned with tears, but her pride would not let them fall. She looked at the human, her voice sharp as a blade. Why? Why would you protect her? She is not yours. She is not your kind. What do you want, power, ransom, glory? The warrior's voice was calm, though soldiers stood ready to cut him down. I want nothing. I gave her food when she was starving. I carried her when she was weak. I fought armies for her. Not because she is a princess, not because she is royal, but because she is a child who deserved to live. I made a promise and I kept it. That is all. His words struck like thunder. Even the soldiers shifted uneasily, their grips on their weapons loosening. The queen stared at him, her heart torn. His voice carried no lies. He was a warrior, yes, but he spoke like a father who had carried a burden greater than his own life. The princess stepped forward, her hands outstretched toward her mother. Mother, please look at me. Look at what you're doing. If you kill him, you kill the one who gave me back my life. If you hurt him, you hurt me too. The queen's chest ached. For years she had dreamed of this moment. Her daughter running into her arms, whispering her name. Yet now her daughter stood with a human, choosing him. The queen could not breathe. Rage told her to give the order, to end the human where he stood. But love whispered louder. She closed her eyes. Memories returned. Holding her baby for the first time, hearing her laugh, watching her take her first steps. The warmth of those memories broke the ice around her heart. When she opened her eyes again, her tears finally fell. Her hand dropped slowly. Stand down, she commanded. The soldiers froze. Then, one by one, they lowered their blades. The hall filled with silence again, but this time it was softer, almost trembling with relief. The warrior let out a long breath, his weapon lowering. The girl ran forward, her arms wrapping around her mother. The queen gasped, holding her daughter tight for the first time in years. She buried her face in the girl's hair, her body shaking with sobs. "I thought you were gone forever," she whispered. "I thought I had lost you." The princess clung to her, her voice breaking. "I thought I'd never see you again, mother. But he brought me back. He never gave up on me." The queen lifted her eyes, meeting the human's gaze. Her voice was softer now, though still edged with warning. "You have returned what the galaxy took from me. For that you live. But never forget, human, you are still of the race that caused me endless pain. You walk free only because my daughter asks it." The warrior bowed his head, his voice steady. "I never asked for freedom. I only wanted her safe. My promise is fulfilled." The queen looked at him for a long moment. She saw not just a soldier, but a man who carried guilt, who fought not for power but for redemption. In another world, perhaps he could have been her ally, but here he would always be human, and she would always remember the war. The hall was quiet, the moment fragile as glass. The queen held her daughter's hand. The warrior stood in silence, and for the first time in years, hope stirred inside the empire. But far beyond the palace walls, in the shadows of space, other powers watched. Spies whispered. Enemies gathered. The return of the lost princess was no small thing. The galaxy would not stay silent for long. The queen kissed her daughter's forehead, a rare smile breaking through her grief. "You are home now," she whispered, "and no one will take you from me again." The warrior turned to leave, his steps heavy but his heart lighter than before. He had kept his promise. Yet deep inside he knew this was not the end. The galaxy was changing, and their story had only just begun. And as the stars glowed over the empire, one truth burned brighter than all. Love had won over hate, for now.